So an oligopoly market structure is somewhat similar to a monopoly in the sense that there exists significant barriers to entry, which stops firms from entering or exiting. And so what we end up with is a market structure where there are a few large sellers that dominate the industry. So there could be more than just a few firms, but there are a few of them that just kind of dominate. So we look at the market for fast food, it's really kind of dominated by McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. There are other ones, but those dominate. In the soft drink industry, there are many sellers, but it's really dominated by Pepsi, Coke, and the 7-Up Snapple Group. So there's just a few sellers left, a lot of times because there's some sort of barriers to entry, and consumers are pretty much satisfied with the options that there are. Because there's only a few firms, they operate interdependently, meaning that they kind of copy off of each other. They work off of each other. It matters what their selections are. So when you drive down the street and you notice two gas stations on kind of opposite corners of the intersection, a lot of times you'll notice that the prices are pretty much the same, maybe like 2 cents off either way. And that's because firms are interdependent. When one raises their price, the other one looks across the street and raises their price a few cents. Same thing with lowering the price. And that kind of works on the idea of collusion, where firms are enticed to collude because there's only a few sellers in the industry, so there's only a few people that they need to convince to collude. Monopolistic competition, collusion doesn't work because there's just too many sellers that you can't get everybody on board. But when there's just a few sellers, it makes it much easier. Another example of how firms kind of operate interdependently is when we look at two of the firms in the soft drink industry, PepsiCo and Coke. So we look down their lineups, they've kind of copied each other over the year, and they tend to move together. So when one comes out with a new product, the other one comes out with a very similar product. So when we run down the lineup, we have Pepsi, obviously, and Coke, and then there's Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke. And then a while back, Pepsi decided, well, we're going to market Diet Pepsi to older people, and so we need a younger drink to market to basically the same diet drink, but just market it to the younger crowd. So they made Pepsi Max. And then Coke eventually followed that up with Coke Zero. Then Pepsi has Sierra Mist. Coke has Sprite. Pepsi has Mountain Dew. Coke has Mellow Yellow. PepsiCo has Aquafina, the water. And Coke has Dasani. Then in root beer, the PepsiCo has Mugs and Coke has Barks. Pepsi owns Gatorade, while Coke owns Powerade. Pepsi has Lipton Iced Tea, and Coke has Nestea. And then Pepsi owns Rockstar, and Coke owns Full Throttle Energy Drink. So when you look down the row, they pretty much own the same things. They're just a little bit different formula. But ultimately, they've ended up making products that are very, very similar to each other. And that's how firms operate interdependently, is they kind of move together and kind of copy off of each other. It's not necessarily collusion, it's just how they operate. So take a minute to copy down this square. So pause the video now so you can kind of copy down this, what we call a payoff matrix. So we have firm A and firm B. The first number in each box is A, and the second number in each box is B, firm B's daily profit. And so what we're looking for is, do the firms have a dominant strategy? And where would the firms operate under competitive forces? And then where would the firms operate if they could collude? Is there any way that they could increase their profits if they could work together? So pause the video now and go ahead and copy it down, and then we'll pick up with how to read this. All right. So the first thing you should do when you look at this is to label each number, just so that makes your brain do less work. So when you see those letters above, it's going to be much easier to read. So let's start with firm A. Do they have a dominant strategy? So what you're going to need to do is make the decisions for B. So I'm going to cover up this side. If firm B advertises, then firm A is looking at the 150 or 100. So obviously the firm A is going to want to advertise. So if firm B advertises, so will firm A. So now if firm B decides to not advertise, firm A is looking at the numbers of 250 and 200. So it's very easy to see that firm B has already made their decision. So we're not looking at 50 and 100. We're looking at the 250 and 200. And so firm A does have a dominant strategy to advertise. Now, if we look for a dominant strategy for B, we're going to do the same thing but cover up an option for A. So when we cover this up, When firm A advertised, firm B would also advertise because 75 is greater than 50. And if firm A decides to not advertise, then firm B will still advertise. So ultimately we end up with a double dominant strategy where both firms will advertise and they will end up producing this much. So under competitive forces, because both have a dominant strategy, they will always end up with both firms advertising. However, if you take a look, both firms could be better off and earn more profit if they both work together and not advertise. But that's not going to be possible under competition, but it is possible if the firm colludes, which is illegal in the U.S., but certainly something that that firms are capable of doing and incentivized to do in this case, because collusion could earn them both more money, as they would save money on not advertising. And so that's how you kind of read a payoff matrix. So you just have to get used to covering up, one side. So firm A in this case, we're looking at firm A is advertised. So we're not looking at 150 and 250 because firm A has already chosen advertised. So we're basing firm B on the fact that firm A has already chosen to advertise. So we're looking at the 75 and 50. Then if we cover up the other side, then we are looking to firm A has already chosen not to advertise. So we're going to look at what firm B should do, so we're looking at these. And so it gets a little confusing, or can, if you're kind of going between, okay, I'm covering up the top, so what numbers am I looking at? But ultimately in this case, firm A has already made a decision, so we're not looking at 100 and 200, we're looking at the 175 versus 100. Because we're looking at, based on what firm A does, what should firm B do? And so we're looking at 175 and 100.